Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program, the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we have faced for several decades now, and that affects every aspect of our lives, most especially our most important relationships that these days are increasingly marked by the pain and heartache that comes along with character dysfunction. There was a time when we more fully appreciated the importance of character in our lives, and especially within our relationships. And more care was taken to nurture, develop, and reinforce character so we could expect it. And while we human beings have always had our character-related problems, we've always been flawed, imperfect. It was considered at one time life's most noble task to develop ourselves into the kinds of individuals that we all have it within us to be. That is, provided that we observe certain key principles and take those principles to heart and do our best to embrace them and live them out. Principles that I first outlined in my book, Character Disturbance, and talk about at great length in my most recent book, Essentials for the Journey, which is an audiobook production at this moment and will be released perhaps just after Labor Day. At least that's what we're hoping for. It's important to me to get a message out there about not only how important character is, but what we must do to change our world for the better and change ourselves one heart at a time so that we can accomplish that task. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it the same way we got into the mess that we're in right now. Slowly, incrementally, values once widely understood and more firmly embraced eroded as the culture that dominates so many societies, a culture filled with a sense of entitlement, relativism, license, made it difficult, if not impossible, to become a person of integrity. And unfortunately, all too many people who have reasonable levels of integrity have found out the hard way what it's like to become involved with someone who turned out to be not the person you would hope that they would be, because of deep flaws in their character. And sadly, folks have also found out what it's like to try and get help in that regard, experiencing what we call iatrogenic or therapy-induced trauma, because nobody seems to understand what character-impaired folks really need in the way of guidance and constructive help. I've been talking the past couple of weeks about narcissism in its various forms and manifestations, and how narcissism in all of its forms and manifestations impairs a person's ability to love. As I've spoken about many times before and write about extensively, not just in my books, but in many articles on the blog at drgeorgesimon.com. Narcissism is a spectrum phenomenon, varying as to type and degree. Some narcissistic individuals can be quite engaging and charming, and they are relatively benign within relationships. But there's no such thing as good narcissism. It always impairs character development, and it always inevitably brings some heartache to relationships. And the first two commandments that I talk about in Essentials for the Journey, appreciating that we're a part of something bigger, and that there are no entitlements in life, that everything we enjoy has been gifted to us first. And so we are inherently indebted. These first two fundamental axioms that I outline in my books are principles that narcissistic individuals have huge problems with as they continue to see themselves as the center of the universe and as they feel massively entitled to do as they please, when they please, to whom they please. These first two so-called commandments or important axioms that I've been talking about are only the beginning of learning what genuine love is and how to display it. And because narcissists have problems with these first two principles, they can't advance in their capacity to them. Seeing these characteristics in a person should always give you pause as you enter a relationship. And I'll be talking about significant problems with the next two commandments on the next edition of the new Character Matters program. So I hope you'll tune in. As I say in Essentials for the Journey, coming to appreciate this great gift that we enjoy, this totally unmerited gift of life, and all of the things that we have been given, all of the resources that we have at our disposal, coming to appreciate that ought to instill some sense of awe and lead to some sense of gratitude. And that should also in turn lead to some sense of indebtedness and a willing heart to give back, to give of ourselves. Too many folks these days feel cheated by life, even if they have a lot. We hear all kinds of excuses made for attitudes of entitlement. Reasons from having been dealt a raw deal, not enjoying privilege, etc. And these things can indeed harden the heart and make it difficult to appreciate this great gift and to develop the right kind of attitude. But we have just as many spoiled brats among us as we do victims of injustice and undeserved impoverishment of one type or another. Regardless of the reasons, to develop the kind of character that we all have it within us to develop, we have to overcome any sense of entitlement and develop some sense of reverence. And in today's cultural climate, that is harder than ever. So the effort toward that has to be stronger than ever. And the reinforcements for doing so have to be stronger than ever. Instead, unfortunately, in the current cultural climate, we reinforce heavily excessive expectation, self-focus, attitudes of entitlement, hostile, bigoted attitudes. And that must change. And it can only change the way that we got here, one heart at a time. Instead of being slowly corrupted, slowly enlivened with a new awareness about life and its meaning and its purpose. It alone will save us. It will do for us what our laws and rules and regulations and attempts to punish, etc., have failed to do for us. And so I'll keep speaking on these matters, and I'll keep writing about them, and I hope you avail yourself of all the free articles on the blog and avail yourself of my books. And I'll have an announcement in a couple of weeks about another live program. on the New Character Matters, where we can talk in person in real time. So until next time, I'm Dr. George Simon. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.